So next is openness, which we have discussed earlier, and it is one of the 5 personality traits of the theory, and it indicates how open-minded a person is. A person with a high level of openness to experience in a personality test enjoys trying new things. They are imaginative, curious, and open-minded. Individuals who are low in openness to experience would rather not try new things. They are also close-minded, literal, and enjoy having a routine. High openness means being creative and open to new ideas. Individuals with a high level of openness have a general appreciation for unusual ideas and art. They are usually imaginative rather than practical. Being creative, open to new and different ideas, and in touch with their feelings are all characteristics of these people. Individuals who score lower in openness on a career test are generally more closed off, resistant to change, and analytical. So subtraits of the openness are, each of the personal trait is made up of 6 facets, and independent of that belong to a personality test. The subtraits of openness domain are imagination, artistic interest, emotionality, adventurousness, intellect, and liberalism. So having a high level of openness is important in jobs that require creative thinking and a flexible attitude. Jobs such as advertising, research, and other artistic occupation benefit from high openness. A person who scores low in openness on a career test may excel in jobs that involve routine work and do not require creativity. Agreeableness is one of the personality traits which we have discussed earlier, and it is a person with a high level of agreeableness in a personality test is usually warm, friendly, and tactful. They generally have an optimistic view of human nature and get along with others. A person who scores low on agreeableness may put their own interests above those of others. They tend to be distant, unfriendly, and uncooperative. Person high in agreeableness is friendly and helpful. Social harmony is an important goal for individuals that score high on agreeableness in a career test. Agreeable individuals find it important to get along with others. They are willing to put aside their interest for the people. These individuals are helpful, friendly, considerate, and generous. Their basic belief is that people are usually decent, honest, and trustworthy. Neuroticism or emotional stability. Emotional stability or neuroticism is one of the 5 personality traits of the big 5 personality. Emotional stability refers to a person's ability to remain stable and balanced. At the other end of the scale, a person who is high neuroticism has a tendency to easily experience negative emotions. Neuroticism is similar but not identical to being neurotic in the Freudian sense. Some psychologists prefer to call neuroticism by the term emotional stability to differentiate it from the term neuroticism in a career test. So, individual high in emotional stability is stable and calm. People who score high in emotional stability, low in neuroticism on a career test react less emotionally and are less easily upset. They tend to emotionally be stable, calm, and do not constantly experience negative feelings. The fact is that these individuals are free from experiencing negative feelings and does not mean that they experience a lot of positive feelings. The latter is trait of the extraversion trait. Individual high in neuroticism is emotionally reactive. People who score high neuroticism are very emotionally reactive. They will have an emotional response to events that would not affect most people. A high scorer in neuroticism on a personality test has a greater chance of feeling threatened or being in a bad mood in a normal situation. They may find it difficult to think clearly and cope with the stress. So these are the traits of the emotional stability, and some traits of the emotional stability or neuroticism is that it is containing anxiety, anger, depression, self-consciousness, immoderation and vulnerability. And a person who has a high level of emotional stability or neuroticism is preferred in most professions because they have more control over the emotions at work. Employees with low emotional stability may be more easily distracted from their work by deadlines, personal situations and pressure. Trait theories believe personality can be understood via the approach that all people have certain traits or characteristics of behaving. Do you tend to be social or shy, passive or aggressive, optimistic or pessimistic, or moody or even tempered? Early trait theories tried to describe all human personality traits. For example, one trait theorist, Gordon Allport, found 4,500 words in the English language that could describe people. He organized these personality traits into three categories: cardinal traits, central traits and secondary traits. A cardinal trait is one that dominates your entire personality and hence your life, such as Ebenezer Scrooge's greed and Mother Teresa's altruism. Cardinal traits are not very common. Few people have personalities dominated by a single trait. Instead, our personalities typically are composed of multiple traits. Central traits are those that make up our personalities, such as loyal, kind, agreeable, friendly, sneaky, wild and grouchy. Secondary traits are those that are not quite as obvious or as consistent as central traits. They are present under specific circumstances and include preferences and attitudes. For example, one person gets angry when people try to tickle him. Another can only sleep on the left side of the bed, and yet another always orders her salad dressing on the side. And you, although not only normally an anxious person, feel nervous before making a speech in front of your English class. In an effort to make the list of traits more manageable, Raymond Cattell narrowed down that a trait is either present or absent. Narrowed down the list to about 171 traits. However, saying that a trait is either present or absent does not accurately reflect a person's uniqueness, because all our personalities are actually made up of the same traits. We differ only in the degree to which each trait is expressed. Cattell identified 16 factors or dimensions of personality: warmth, reasoning, emotional stability, dominance, liveliness, rule consciousness, social boldness, sensitivity, vigilance, abstractness, privateness, apprehension, openness to change, self-reliance, perfectionism, and tension. He developed a personality assessment based on the 16 factors called the 16PF. Instead of a trait being present or absent, each dimension is scored over a continuum from high to low. For example, your level of warmth describes how warm, caring and nice to others you are. If you score low on this index, you tend to be more distant and cold. A high score on the index signifies you are supportive and comforting. According to the theory of Hans and Seibel-Zink, people high on the trait of extroversion are sociable and outgoing and readily connect with others, whereas people high on the trait of introversion have a higher need to be alone, engage in solitary behaviors and limit their interactions with others. In the neuroticism or stability dimension, people high on neuroticism tend to be anxious. They tend to have an overactive sympathetic nervous system and even with low stress, their bodies and emotional states tend to go into a flight or fight reaction. In contrast, people high on stability tend to need more situation or stimulation to activate their flight or fight reaction and are reconsidered more emotionally stable. Based on these two dimensions, the Eysenck's theory divides people into 4 quadrants. These quadrants are sometimes compared with the 4 temperaments described by the Greeks: melancholic, choleric, phlegmatic, and sanguine. Later, the Eysenck's added a 3rd dimension: psychoticism versus superego control. In this dimension, people who are high on psychoticism tend to be independent thinkers, cold, nonconformist, impulsive, antisocial, and hostile, whereas people who are high on superego control tend to have high impulse control. They are more altruistic, empathetic, cooperative, and conventional. While Catel's 16 factors may be too broad, the Eysenck's 2-factor system has been criticized for being too narrow. Another personality theory called the 5-factor model effectively hits a middle ground, with its 5 factors referred to as the Big 5 personality traits. It is the most popular theory in personality psychology today and the most accurate approximation of the basic trait dimension. The 5 traits are openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. A helpful way to remember the traits is by using the mnemonic ocean. In the 5-factor model, each person has each trait, but they occur along a spectrum. Openness to experience is characterized by imagination, feelings, actions, and ideas. People who score high on this real trait tend to be curious and have a wide range of interests. Conscientiousness is characterized by competence, self-discipline, thoughtfulness, and achievement striving, goal-directed behavior. People who score high on the trait are hardworking and dependable. Numerous studies have found a positive correlation between consciousness and academic success. Extroversion is characterized by sociability, assertiveness, excitement seeking, and emotional expression. People who score high on this trait are usually described as outgoing and warm. Not surprisingly, people who score high on both extroversion and openness are more likely to participate in adventure and risky sports due to their curious and excitement seeking nature. The 4th trait is agreeableness, which is the tendency to be pleasant, cooperative, trustworthy, and good natured. People low on agreeableness tend to be described as rude and uncooperative, yet one recent study reported that men who scored low on trait actually earned more money than men who were considered more agreeable. The last of the big 5 traits is neuroticism, which is the tendency to experience negative emotions. People high on neuroticism tend to experience emotional instability and are characterized by as angry, impulsive, and hostile. Watson and Clark found that people reporting high levels of neuroticism that people are anxious and unhappy. In contrast, people who score low in neuroticism tend to be calm and even tempered. The Big 5 personality factors each represent a range between 2 extremes. In reality, most of us tend to lie somewhere midway along the continuum of each factor, rather than at polar ends. It's important to note that the Big 5 traits are relatively stable over the lifespan, with some tendency for the traits to increase or decrease slightly. Researchers have found that conscientiousness increases through young adulthood into middle age as we become able to manage our personal relationships and careers. Agreeableness also increases with age peaking between 50 to 70 years. Neuroticism and extroversion tend to decline slightly with age. Additionally, the big five traits have been shown to exist across ethnicities, cultures, and ages, and may have substantial biological and genetic components.